Now let's begin with an introduction of the financial concepts. First of all, before diving deep into the financial concepts, let's understand a short description of what is a project manager first of all. Who is a project manager? When do you define yourself as a project manager? What are your roles and responsibilities? What are your liabilities for being a project manager? And stuff like that. So that gives you a brief insight into the life of a project manager, and then you can take a much better effective decisions as to what financial implications you need to be analyzing as a project manager. So let's begin. First of all, let's answer the simple question, who is a project manager? Oh, I beg your pardon for my grammatical mistake over here. It's supposed to be who are project managers or who is a project manager. Okay, coming back to the subject, guys. A project manager is simply any person who has been given a charge of a project. Okay, he is responsible, he is in charge of a particular project. Now that project can be in terms of anything. It can be a financial project, non-financial project, any kind of project. But always remember this one thing, whatever the project will be, it will always have a financial implications. It can be a non-financial project like, brand advertising, launching a marketing campaign and so on. But the end goal is always to generate revenues, profits and all, and it ties back to the financial implications. Okay, so the project manager simply is a person who is given a charge of a project. That's one thing. Now, he is also the guy, or you can say with this charge, with his responsibilities comes a lot of factors. He's accountable for a lot of things. He is responsible for the successful initiation of the project, successful planning, design, execution, monitoring, controlling, also closure of the project. A project cannot be open till infinite time. There is always supposed to be a due date, a closure date. Now, the project manager is responsible for making sure the project closes on time. The output is delivered to the client or the company or whoever is working on time. Now, making sure it has been contributing positive results to the organization, both in terms of financial aspects, that is measured by way of profitability, positive cash flows, as well as in terms of non-financial aspects. If the project has another KPI, or you can say key performance indicator in terms of non-financial aspects, that can be by way of a brand image building, increase customer satisfaction, reduce customer complaints, anything. So to give in a nutshell, a person can have any kind of activity as a project and is responsible for starting till the end of the project, also making sure he achieves the objectives with which the project was launched. Next we come is the roles and responsibilities of project manager. Now, the project manager's primary responsibility, the primary duty is recognition of the risk that directly impacts the likelihood of the success of a project. And that risk must be both formally and informally measured throughout the lifetime of a project. So what do you mean by formally and informally? Formally means, documenting every evidence that this is the risk which is going to come in. This is the risk which can going to come in. Like you can say a recent change in government policies might make the entire project obsolete. So he has to document that thing formally. Informal risk can be, you can say, if he has got some news by way of the gossips around the corner or grapevine communications that some XYZ competitor is going to launch a similar campaign in the next a week before he plans to launch the product campaign. That is an informal way of documenting the informal measure of a threat to a project, informal risk to a project. Those all the things he needs to consider because they all have a likelihood or they all have a possibility of impacting his work. Okay. Now, to put in a nutshell, the responsibility of project manager can be many activities, some of which are like planning and defining the scope of the project and the activities to be performed, actively planning and sequencing of the activities to be performed, resource planning, time estimations and preparing the schedules of the project, developing the budget for the project, preparing forecast, actively keeping a track on the project, documentation of the progress and important events for the future references. This is also one of the key aspects. Most of the time people forget to document the various steps they have taken, the various challenges they faced in the project, the various milestones they hit, when did they hit, what steps did they take to overcome the challenges and so on. If the documentation is readily available, if the project is repeated in the future, that can serve as a reference guide for himself if he's taking the project again or to anyone who is going to come up in his place and take up the project. Next, he's also need to be aware of the risk analysis, managing the risk, that is a SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunity, threat kind of a thing for his own project. Risk analysis, monitoring, reporting progresses, team leadership, strategic influencing, vendor relationship management, quality control, and whatnot. You name it and it can come up. So you can say the project itself can run as an entire organization activity, where everything that is possible for the organization can be possible for a project manager also, because he's performing a part of the organization's core role. With that, we come to the next part, that is liabilities of a project manager. Now, the project manager, as we have been emphasizing, is responsible for the entire execution to the completion of the project, initiation till the completion of a project. But now let's look at a deeper way. What is a collaborative project manager? Now, the project manager is responsible to make sure that his entire project is completed within the estimated budgets and the other guidance and company standards are adhered to. Obviously, every company has their own set of standards, their own set of policies, their own set of rules and regulations. So, the project manager needs to make sure that he completes the project within the budget allocated to him and also following the company standards, rules, regulations, so that company's image is not shattered by any of by him going out of the way. Even if he has to go make an exception, make sure you communicate with your top management, you speak up to your seniors who are involved in the project, your management team, and only after cautious approval go ahead with that, with that exception. But most of the time it's not required, because companies who are authorizing the project, they do know what challenges can come up, because already most of the projects will have been done in the past with the companies. Even if they are not done, if it's a one-off thing, it's a new thing, they'll still have, you can say, people are much experienced to evaluate what are the various pros and cons, whereas possibilities, probable possibilities that can come up in the project, and so on. Now, if any targets or deadlines are missed, then it is a project manager's liability to make up for the additional cost, unless it was something beyond his control. So you can say, in a way, if the project manager knew that the cost can exceed because of a certain risk and he did not take up the adequate steps to mitigate that risk, it is obviously his liability. He is liable for the entire additional cost incurred by the company, additional loss of revenue by the company, and so on. But if it's something which is not in his control, like we said, if a company wants to do a marketing campaign by Facebook, Twitter, and suddenly government comes up with a rule that social media handles are no more allowed to be used in a digital marketing, bang, the whole project is screwed up. But that's nothing beyond it, nothing in its control. The project manager cannot control that campaign, that government's outcome. So those are the factors which needs to be considered, and accordingly he is made liable for those things. If it is in his control, he needs to make sure he takes adequate steps to mitigate the risk, to make sure projects are complete on deadline, to make sure they can be complete before the deadline, and makes the company a good amount of profit in terms of financial aspect as well as non-financial aspects also. Profit in terms of financial aspects, I believe we all understand: gross profit, net profit, increased revenue, cash flows, and so on. Non-financial aspects: increased customer satisfaction, reduced customer complaints, positive brand image for the company, and so on. Now, even though there will be technical challenges in completing the projects, which are justified many a times, it may happen that the project manager is not able to defend himself. The primary reason being that the project manager in most of the cases do not have a financial expertise. Okay, sometimes even the basic financial knowledge is lacking on their part. They might be experts in their field, they might have the whole Wikipedia published in their minds on the particular field in which they are working. It can be in terms of marketing, IT, web application development, mobile application, and so on. But because of this lack of the financial knowledge, sometimes they screw up on very badly. And the top management, or you can say the management, is mainly concerned with achievement of the numbers in most of the cases, while this guys, whenever the management approves the project, the end goal that they have in mind will always tie back to any sort of profit for the company. It can be in terms of financial measures and non-financial. Even if they are targeting a non-financial achievement, it all ties back to a financial number only. Think of this thing: why does the company want to take a project which is increasing their brand reputation, which is reducing their customer complaints, which is increasing their customer satisfaction, all just to pump up the sales number, all to derive a new revenue streams, all to get the customers' loyalty so that more sales can happen, ultimately all tying back to increasing profit for the company, right? So coming back to the point, so it happens that many times the technical experts are not able to justify the delays or additional costs involved for the project, and so on. Besides, precisely, they are not able to defend themselves when any kind of delay happens in the project. And because top management, or you can see the management, is mostly concerned with numbers, and these guys don't have the expertise, it becomes a real challenge for the project managers to defend themselves, to justify themselves. In that case, having a basic knowledge of the financial concepts helps the project managers go way beyond and defend themselves properly. Not only defend themselves, but give proactive suggestions, give proactive reports and analysis that this is why the project should make sense to you company and we should carry on. It's all a bit boring theory right now. I get the point, guys. Hold on a while. This lesson, once we complete this introduction to financial concepts, it's all going to be fun, the numbers and analysis, and you're going to love that thing. But before that, we need to understand what is the importance of this thing. Now, till now, whatever we have studied or whatever we have gone through, based on this, we can conclude that everybody, whether belonging from the accounts and finance background or not, he is going to manage a project at some point of time in their career. Okay, now everyone is going to manage a project at some point of time in their career. They will have their own team members, they'll have their own team, they'll be a team leaders, they'll report to someone, and it's going to happen. You will take up a project in your life irrespective of the fact you know it or you don't, but every project involves a cost on which a return is expected. Now, it is hard for the project managers from non-financial background to evaluate the financial progress of their projects and take corrective actions before it's too late in some cases, right? So, therefore, this course will help you in gaining that basic financial knowledge, and it will provide you, and I'll make sure that it provides you the tools and methods you need to evaluate the progress of your project, at least in terms of the financial experts, because that's where my domain lies, that's where my expertise lies. I'm not from a non-financial background. I have expertise only in the financial aspects and the accounting aspects. If you ask me, to be honest, what does digital marketing campaign and all mean, I'll be like completely blank because it's never done tried out. But yes, I can evaluate the financial aspects of that, and that's why I'm trying to share my knowledge and get you up and running to some speed. Now, with this, we complete the whole understanding of the project manager. What are the roles and responsibilities, what are the liabilities, and how everybody is going to be taking up a project at some point of time in their career. And this course will help you to be ready beforehand, before you at least start a project, or even if you are having a project or you have already been doing the projects. I'll make sure you get some useful benefits by starting this course and understanding how to imply those concepts in your actual ongoing project. And for those of you who have not started a project, this is a golden opportunity for you to learn to manage a project, at least in terms of financial and accounting aspects, so that you are more ready. Imagine this thing: your technical expertise plus the financial knowledge, combining the two different domains, that will give you a cutting edge in being a project manager. I'll see you in the next session, where we're going to start with the financial concepts actually now.